InvestorIdeas.com podcasts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts. In today's podcast, we'll be looking at a few public company announcements from ALID Corporation, trading on the OTCQB as ALID, Link Reservations Incorporated, trading on the OTC as LRSV, RAMM Pharma Corporation, trading on the CSE as RAMM and the OTC as RAMMF, as well as Cannabis Global Incorporated, trading on the TSX as ZENA. First, starting with ALID Corporation, who is an international medical company focused on creating and providing health solutions to address today's medical mental health issues, who announced it successfully filed for trademark protection for its pharmaceutical product Silonex. Now, Silonex is a proprietary formulation prescribed with a treatment path that involves both a pharmaceutical psilocybin-based formulation followed by a daily cannabinoid maintenance period. Now, Silonex is intended to be prescribed by a physician as Silonex RX, followed by the cannabinoid daily therapy that can be purchased by the consumer in regions where it's legal to do so as Silonex Daily. And both of these products are currently being researched, developed, and tested by ALID's pharmaceutical development team. Now, the filed trademark protects ALID's intellectual property for Silonex, covering a vast array of different areas, so chemical preparations for pharmaceutical and medical purposes, namely for treating depression, anxiety, and PTSD, nutraceuticals for the treatment of mental health disorders and conditions, including depression, anxiety, and PTSD, pharmaceutical preparations and substances for the treatment of psychiatric diseases and disorders, pharmaceutical preparations for the treatment and prevention of mental health disorders, fungal extracts sold as a component ingredient of nutritional supplements and vitamins, providing a website featuring information in the field of mental health and physical health, including living and healthy and disease-free life, and providing a website featuring information about the health, wellness, and nutrition, as well as a few other core assets. So I did talk about Silonex a couple of weeks ago and ALID Corporation in the past. Again, they're one of the few companies that is very much focusing on the combination of both functional mushrooms and psychedelic-based mushrooms, so psilocybin, in combination with cannabinoid-based therapies. We are starting to see this pop up in other companies, but ALID was definitely one of the first to jump on that immediately and make their own proprietary formulation with that in mind. I do think that will be the type of methodology that will sort of win out, as you will have, as these two industries are evolving side by side, it makes sense to adapt some of the best assets of both industries and combine them together to create sort of your best medical product available. And I do think that the combination of cannabinoids, nutraceuticals, as well as psilocybin or some of these other psychedelic-based medicines is going to be sort of the formula that you'll see eventually used in a lot of these clinics, as well as once there is sort of a medical access point for psilocybin, it will probably be in tandem with, again, some cannabinoid-based medicines. That being said, as far as their trademark protection on Silonex, I do find that very similarly to what you've seen in the cannabinoid world, having patents and trademarks on proprietary formulations does seem to be a little bit out of touch with what's going on in those industries and how pretty much everyone is going to be eventually utilizing everyone's formulations and everyone's assets over time. We've seen this with extract technology. We've seen this with, again, combination formulations for cannabinoids in combination with nutraceuticals. I do think that having some protection over your products is obviously necessary. I don't think that it will completely stop others from using very similar styles of ideas and formulations for their own products. And I think that it'll be very hard to sort of create lawsuits or actually protect your assets in the long term. That being said, it is a smart play to at least have something going on there. But again, I do think that very similarly to what you've seen in the cannabinoid-based industries is that you'll see a lot of crossover between most of these companies and that the end products will all look very similar. Again, very much what we've seen in the cannabis industry. Moving on next to Link Reservations, who announced that the company is preparing to launch its first functional mushroom product, Daily Life CBD Immune, and the new tincture product tailored for people will be featuring both CBD and a wide spectrum of functional mushrooms, including lion's mane, which helps boost the immune system. This is an exciting first step for the company, and we're thrilled to soon bring to market our first CBD mushroom product. Our focus has always been on providing high-quality products that can help people benefit from the power of natural ingredients, and that's what we've aimed for with this product, commented Renee Lauritsen, Linked Reservations Incorporated CEO. Now, understandably, people are focusing on their health now more than ever and looking for ways in which they can boost their immunity, particularly in a natural way. And our goal is to fully satisfy their need with a new product. We've been researching the benefits of functional mushrooms for the past few months and have developed a product that will harness their powers, added Lauritsen. Now, as the world continues to reel from the coronavirus pandemic and learns to live with the virus, many people are focusing on different ways to boost their immune system. And according to Rick Miller, Associate Director of the Food and Drink Specialized Nutrition and Mental, a majority of consumers in Europe purchase vitamins, minerals, and supplements that strengthen the immune system, while the U.S., 35% of consumers think products that support the immune health would motivate them with making their purchase. Now, Daily Life CBD Immune will feature an organic blend of 13 different medical mushrooms, including lion's mane, turkey tail, chaga, red reishi, and cordyceps, among others. And by focusing on a variety of mushrooms, the product is able to encompass multiple immune-boosting traits and benefits. And in addition, Daily Life CBD Immune also includes 250 milligrams of hemp oil CBD extract and 100 milligrams of vitamin C, which will then add to the immune-boosting benefits. We are confident that this product and our future ones will have very warm reception in the market, and we look forward to sharing more developments as they arise through press releases, ended Lauritsen. And for more information, you can visit their website, dailylifecbd.com, as well as LinkRes Pet, as they will be also eventually looking to do the same for both dogs, cats, and horses. So very much as what I was saying there about ALID Corporation, now you are starting to see more and more companies realize the benefits of sort of crossing over between functional mushrooms and cannabinoid-based medicines. CBD and functional mushrooms, as far as your lion's mane, your chaga, your reishi, etc. I do think that that will be a trend you start to see in a lot of companies over the next year. Again, it does fit into the same sort of markets that you're already focusing on for the CBD industry. Again, a lot of people are putting their CBD products into either beverages or food products or mixes, etc. And I think that adding that functional mushroom asset will be just in line with what customers are already looking for. And again, it also is what we're starting to see as an overall trend, which is the normalization of functional mushrooms in products and an expectation from consumers. Again, similarly to what we saw in the U.S. early with CBD, where this went from a very unknown substance to something that suddenly was popping up into every single product available. The same thing is starting to happen for the functional mushroom market, especially as this is a low-cost production market. You don't really have to worry about your overhead for producing functional mushrooms. It's quite easy, and especially compared to the cannabis-based industry, it's extremely cost-effective by comparison. So I do think that you're going to start to see a lot of these CBD-based companies like Link Reservations start to look at adding both nutraceuticals and functional mushrooms into their formulations and products going out into the market into the future as just an additional additive for all of the things that they're trying to advertise in their products essentially, which is immune boosting and overall health and wellness products. And along the same lines, at least in the more the pet industry, RAMM Pharma Corporation announced that it's initiated clinical trials studying the efficacy of its proprietary NetaVet pet cannabinoid formulation for the treatment of 4 pathologies in animals. And the trials will be conducted in partnership with the Universidad de República de Uruguay in collaboration with leading international experts of Montreal University, University of Buenos Aires, and Sao Paulo State University, Brazil, and the University of Barcelona, Spain. Now, NetaLife is a wholly owned subsidiary of RAMM dedicated to the production, export, and commercialization of pet products, food, pharmaceutical specialties, and cosmetic products for animals. And more information can be found at NetaLife's website, netalife.com. Now, the clinical trials will evaluate the efficacy of NetaVet cannabinoid formulations for the treatment of chronic osteoporosis pain in dogs, chronic osteoporosis pain in horses, allergic dermatitis in dogs, and anxiety in dogs. Now, Professor Dr. Nadia Crasagnadia from Uruguay, lead advisor for the clinical trials, stated, "We are, from an academic standpoint, very excited to be able to conduct these clinical trials together with RAMM Pharma and the prospects of these novel treatments to improve the quality of life of animals. We're pleased to commence this initial set of clinical trials with renowned experts to advance the development of products to help address some of the most common animal ailments, stated Jack Burnett, the Chief Executive Officer. Now, the DediVet team is developing a line of specialized CBD veterinary and medical products for animals, and CBD has been shown to have benefits in animals, including pain and inflammation reduction, immune system improvement, skin, fur care, and cognitive support. And DediVet products will offer a natural, holistic medical alternative for animal care, in which we believe may provide therapeutic results for diagnosed conditions such as idiopathic epilepsy, canine lymphoma, and anxiety with the negative side effects of traditional without the negative side effects of traditional veterinary medications. So again, very similar to if you've looked at LinkRes Pet, who obviously focuses on CBD products for the pet industry. RAMM Pharma now also jumping into that same area, focusing on a much more clinical aspect than obviously LinkRes has. But it'll be very interesting to see how those results come from those clinical trials. And I do think that overall, you're going to start to see CBD products in most pet food or pet products, again, eventually, as this becomes more and more well known that there's a lot of benefits for CBD for the average pet. As well, you will probably see functional mushrooms also jump into this same arena, as there's a ton of evidence to support the functional mushrooms, specifically a few strains that have had massive benefits, not only just with general health for pets and animals, but also for improvement for some of the best dog hunting trainers in the world. Actually use functional mushrooms quite regularly when it comes to improving the overall senses and performance of their hunting dogs. So there is a lot of sort of crossover there, and again, I would expect that within the next few months, you're going to have the FDA have more clarity on the CBD industry, which will then, again, have more access for different products that'll be out there. And again, I do expect that functional mushrooms and CBD will kind of start becoming much more known to go hand in hand. Lastly today, looking at Zenabis Global, who announced the launch of a pre-roll multipacks as well as new distribution agreements. So Zenabis continues to expand on the popularity of its value-oriented re-up portfolio with the launch of its new 10 and 20 multipack indica and sativa 0.5 gram pre-roll formats. Now, this unique multi-pack will be available initially in Quebec and Alberta in the larger 20-pack format and in early April, with national rollout of both formats expected to be in time for 420 celebrations. And the full impact of the launch is expected to be reflected in Zenabis' second quarter 2021 results. Now, the Zenabis multi-pack pre-roll offerings will serve consumers seeking better value for money in the larger package sizes to reduce the frequency of purchases. And these new products build on the success of Zenabis' popular 28-gram re-up indica and sativa products, and the launch of the 10 and 20-pack multi-re-up pre-roll format underpins Zenabis' strategy of leveraging its ability to deliver the quality and affordability expected by its loyal customer base. Now, Cannabis is also excited to announce that it has concluded agreements with the Cannabis Newfoundland and Labrador and the government of Nunavut, completing its goal of extending the availability of its Namaste and Re-Up products to all Canadian provinces and territories. And shipments under these new agreements will commence in April, and Zenabis now joins a small select group of Canadian LPs whose product quality and value has been recognized as a must-have on-shelf product by every province and territorial board in Canada. And these new agreements further cement Zenabis as one of the top recreational LPs in the country. Finalizing agreements with Cannabis Newfoundland and the government of Nunavut, which means making good on our promise of making our Namaste and Re-Up brands available from coast to coast to coast, is a benchmark moment for this organization. We continue to portray what a lean, nimble company that grows really, really good cannabis can achieve. The addition of our pre-roll multi-pack and our assortment builds of Re-Up's brands, purpose of providing affordable, high THC products to our value-oriented customers, stated Robert Maxwell, Zenabis Vice President and Sales of Marketing. So the Zenabis Re-Up portfolio now launching completely across Canada. They've actually done quite well in a lot of those areas that they've already been in. And I do think that those 10 and 20 multi-packs of smaller joints is going to be what you see a lot of in this industry. That was actually what was doing quite well in the market when it was just medical in Canada in the past. So when you were going to dispensaries that were medical dispensaries, you did see a lot of these 10 and 20 multi-packs. they sold quite aggressively. And I do think that this is more in line with what the average consumer is looking for, which is a quick, small joint as opposed to a large, even a 1 gram joint for the average consumer. And the average person's tolerance right now is a bit much. They're not going to finish that entire joint in one sitting on average, which means that most of the time they're either going to be burning it halfway, which means that they have this half-lit joint somewhere that they have to store in some sort of format. And also, it kind of ruins the experience to some extent. So I do think that having these 0.5 gram or smaller 10 and 20 packs is going to be something you start to see just pop up overall in the industry, not just in Canada, but also in the US and globally once the industry does become global. As again, this is more in line with the size and format of the traditional person's smoking habits. Again, unfortunately, it does fall a lot more in line with what you would see in a cigarette pack, but that you do have to sort of pay attention to the fact that the tobacco industry did a lot of research to make sure that those cigarette formats are the best and most addictive format for smoking that's available. And that is for a reason. And I do think that the cannabis industry can at least pay a little bit of attention to what styles and formats people have traditionally been used for. Again, there is always going to be the market who's looking for blunts and giant joints. But that's a very separate market from the average consumer who's buying and again consuming far less cannabis, and again is also looking for something that's quick and easy for them to just jump outside, have a quick joint, come back in, and that joint's finished. Having a 1 gram format isn't really going to suit those needs. And again, the average person who is consuming cannabis is doing it in that fashion. They're not smoking that entire 20 pack while sitting on the couch like someone who would be smoking a giant blunt or joint. So I do think that the industry will start separating, and hopefully what you'll see is either large, sort of badass formats where you're looking at a lot of the stuff in the US, some of those giant gold leaf blunts, etc., and some of the cooler, more aggressive large formats where you are actually doing like the moon rocks, etc., and then having these 10 and 20 multi-packs of slim, small joints for the average consumer. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.